Hello and welcome back to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. I've been traveling a couple of weeks, and Manny, it's really appreciate you stepping in for the last couple of weeks. Well, I haven't been in the country. You and the team did a wonderful job, so it's really good to be back with both of you talking hockey in a week that's, with the SASOK Nationals going, it's perhaps the biggest week for hockey, schools hockey in South Africa for the year.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks so much. It was brilliant to host the show for the last 3 weeks and just talk to some of the analysts we spoke to, see our hope, as well as some of the coaches, just regarding the build up to the SASOK Nationals that are coming and how exciting it is. You know, the biggest week of the year coming up, and really excited to deep dive into it a little bit later. But Calvin, whilst we were working, you had a little bit of an opportunity to have a little bit of fun and watching some of the best sports and some of the best sporting programs in the world. And how was that? How was that coming back?
You know, Manny, it's one of the great privileges of, I guess, what we do. You know, we were lucky as a family and a group of mates. We got over to the French Open finals, and you know, if anyone wants to put some things on their bucket list, I'm not really a tennis person. It's never really been a game that I've, I'll watch it and various things. I've never really had any particular favourites, but people have always said to me the French Open is one of the most extraordinary events that you can go to. We were privileged enough to go to it. Roland Garros certainly is one of the great, I guess, sporting theatres in the world, and the French just have a way of doing things that is just so special. And I guess in the world of sport, we've got so much to learn from them. And you know, the women's final, Coco Gauff perhaps having one of the greatest finals in women's history, and then the men's final being, I think, the longest or the second longest final in history. Just again an extraordinary result of hockey. So we were very privileged, and we literally left there on the Monday and made our way to London for the Lord's Test. And you know, I think I've sort of been out the country.
Have to interrupt Colvin. I phoned him while he was on his way to London, and he's like, "Oh, I've just finished at Roland Garros, and now I'm on to the test." And I was like, "Goodness, that is the most remarkable."
And again, you know, like going to Lords and going to a final and watching South Africa in a final is always a special experience. But to be there when you win as well, just such a resilient display from a team that is often up against it in world cricket. And you know, I think there's some parallels to the world of hockey. You know, our cricket in this country, we don't have the resources that Australia, England and India have, certainly at a financial level. But we do have this very special ingredient of our school system and the players that we developed, and you know, just this gutsiness, and it came through. I mean, I've unfortunately been in the country the last couple of weeks. I guess you guys were here when the Proteas arrived home. It was just such a special moment for cricket in this country. But yeah, Lords was just exceptional, and I think perhaps the thing that really made it special for me, Manny, was just so many South Africans were there, celebrating with that national team and winning, and so many hockey people. And I think the one thing that really stood out is the amount of conversations I had about hockey on 216 and hockey on SuperSport schools. And, you know, we often think in hockey, we perhaps play a bit of a victim card, I think quite a lot in South Africa. You know, we always feel like we don't have the resources that rugby and cricket and football and everyone else have. But, you know, I think sometimes we've also got to get on the front foot. And the one thing that came through, you know, I had some amazing people from the game, people like Kelly Fairweather, who some might not know that he's currently the CEO of ITF, the International Tennis Federation. Incredible. He's a hockey man. He's coached the men's national team in this country. He comes from a real hockey family. And he was just saying, "Go, you know, with SuperSport schools and what you've done is you guys have the best streaming and broadcast of hockey anywhere in the world. And the amount of talent that we're starting to see and just taking that game to the people is just extraordinary." And coupled to that, I think it's something that we've discussed on the shows. We have the most extraordinary school system in the country. So 100%. Sometimes, you know, you need to go out, you see what the best in the world looks like, but you also realize that there are a lot of things that we're doing incredibly well in this country, and we've got a lot to be proud of. And I think when it comes to hockey, and certainly schools hockey in this country, SASOK and the schools, in terms of the festivals, the events they put on, the SASOK Nationals that we're seeing now, you know, I think, you know, it's just extraordinary. I mean, I think we should have told the people in the studio, we're shooting on a Tuesday afternoon. There's live matches going on, and that, for those who don't know, will know that is the home of hockey, Papes at Maritzburg College. Of course.
I don't know about that, but
we're all until busy playing against Southern Gauteng, so we might get distracted every now and again because we're literally shooting while the SASOK Nationals are on. But you know, this is the sort of thing that we should be very, very proud of. And SASOK do a wonderful job. The schools, the provinces do a wonderful job in terms of preparing kids for this tournament. So yeah, we've got a lot to learn from the world, but we're also doing so many things right, which is
And
wonderful.
Just this week alone, I counted 23 provincial, regional hockey tournaments that are being covered by SuperSport schools across the country. So from 23, you from USA down at Marty's all the way through to under 12 regionals hosted at Krugersdorp. So, that in itself just speaks to the depth that we have in the school and youth system,
Absolutely, and that's something we must be very proud of. So, look, so I've probably spoken a bit, but it's been an incredible week. We finished up at McLaren, and, again, that's just something on a very different level in terms of technology, how they look at things commercially. But again, a lot to learn by the way that they've realised what they needed to do commercially, and a lot of lessons for hockey in that as well. So, I think we'll hopefully roll some of those out in the future in South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And I think it's fantastic you say that. And we were talking about it a little bit off air. The amount we do with what we've got in this country is that we've got the most amazing school system. We've got so many players playing hockey in our school system. So we would love to see them getting just taking it to that next step. But Calvin, whilst you were on holiday, at least Bridget was doing something a little bit more hockey related. And Bridget, you had a chance to go to Poland with the ladies, and you must have picked up so much that we can maybe implement at school level here.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to go over with the national ladies team. We went over to Nations Cup 2, which was a new FIH tournament that's been implemented for Tier 2 countries. So just on a tiering system, it usually goes Pro League, which is your top tier, Nations Cup 1, which the boys were at Malaysia, and then Nations Cup 2, which is a new tournament to extend the opportunity for the lower tiered countries to compete internationally. So, what an opportunity. It was a challenging tournament. I think challenging in the time of year that it is for South African hockey. Most countries have come off a lot of international hockey prior, same with the boys setup. We spoke about it, so in the South African hockey space, we haven't had our big tournaments yet. They're still coming up at a senior level. So just slightly tweaked there. And so challenging but learning, which is fun. And it's a building opportunity for all our players.
Similar to the men's, the ladies had a lot of debutants. I mean, I think the men had 9 first-timers out.
Yeah.
I don't know how many there were exactly in the
There were
ladies.
3 debutants, which is really nice to see. And 150 cap for Hannah Pierce, so chap for her. She got 50 caps on her first day there. And also a lot of, up-and-coming players that have got a few caps behind them, but that international experience on that sort of stage, not yet.
And Bridget, when you talk about, we celebrate 50 caps, and there's countries that are playing 50 caps in a year and a half.
Correct,
And we sort of see it as quite a big milestone. I mean, there's a lot of experienced men's players that haven't played 50 games for South Africa. Hannah, who we're sort of thinking about her as a veteran, but only played 50 games. Perhaps goes back to a bit more of what we're talking about, is like, both teams probably, let's be honest, had very disappointing results at both tournaments. But not having the preparation that they require, not getting enough international hockey. And I guess the future is how do we get them to play more games?
Absolutely, and we spoke about it so much and very openly because we were disappointed in our final results, but yet our statistics and our tactical play was so brilliant. So our build-up was so good. I mean, we're getting 52 circle entries compared to our opposition of 5, and just not being able to convert in that final mindset.
Do you think it's sometimes the belief that I'm going to score as opposed to, what do you think it is, Bridget? I mean, you were there and a bit closer.
I genuinely think as South African hockey players, unfortunately, we do play that bit of victim card. We often lose at international level. So on a psyche level, we haven't created that depth of natural drive to win. It's more a defensive mindset. And we've done that religiously for so long that it becomes kind of evident in our scoring. We don't go out going, I am going to score. You rather go out, I hope I score. And it's that switch.
It's a big difference, isn't it?
Big difference.
But also just to build on that, I think it's how many times a player's been at the international level in front of goals on that kind of stage. The Dutch and the Belgium, they've done it so often, and the French, they've done it so often where we've got a lot of players who are making their debut, and it's a really tricky situation, isn't it? So we want our international players to be playing as much of that level of hockey as possible. And then it just becomes second nature. It's not a matter of, what's my debut, I don't know what to do at the far post anymore, where they can do it at club level and they can do it at provincial level. So I think we just need to get to a stage where we're playing a lot more international hockey at that level.
Absolutely, it is that. I think we definitely have to. And obviously, it's expensive, and that becomes one of the challenges that we have. But I think Bridget said something so interesting in a hockey space, and Devin van der Merwe, the interim national men's coach, and I had a very interesting discussion actually this morning, just talking about if you want different results, you have to do something differently. And one of the things that we were just talking about today is as hockey in South Africa, whether it be at a school level, we often have it. I see Boland have got a goal against Southern Gauteng whilst we've been...
They should be a lot more, but...
Absolutely. This is a tricky fixture for them, and we'll talk a bit more about it. But well done, Boland. So I believe they scored in a short corner whilst we were chatting. So good for them. But really what we need to do as hockey is to stop having this victim approach and be proud of what we have got. We have very little resources, although I must say at schools, in terms of resources, we are so fortunate to have the AstroTurfs, we have the coaches that we have, and the talent we've got, and we need to celebrate that. But really now it's about going into matches and saying, we're going to win matches. Going into matches and saying, that's just another person I'm playing against. Yes, I might not have played as many games as them. I might not have had all the investment, but we've got other things that they don't have. And, probably taking a bit of learnings from that great Proteas win at Lords. I mean, no one in the world gave South Africa a chance. The press in England was saying this game shouldn't be happening. South Africa has no right to be here. And thank goodness, we have people like Bavuma, Mark, and Roberto going, hang on, hold my beer.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's going to be such an important stuff for us as a hockey community. But for us to get that right, it's going to be so important that the entire hockey community gets on the front foot and says, hey, we've got so much, and we get behind it.
Yes, and I mean, I love this. This is one of my biggest learnings, and I got quite emotional on the last day about it. I've worked with Inky Zondi, who's now the head coach of the national ladies team, for a long time. We've been in the program, we've worked together, we've toured together. He's never been a head coach.
At a national
level. At a national level, yes. He was the most positive, confident coach I've ever worked with, in that every time we had a struggle, which we did because we weren't converting, he saw the positive out of it. He didn't see any victimization into that space. So he looked at the whole result as one of, this is an opportunity, this is an opportunity, this is an opportunity, which is so refreshing in a space where you could go the other way. And I thought that was something that, as the players, they took as an opportunity, and me working in that staff also found so refreshing.
I hope that he gets out and does it. And I hear from the under-18 IPT that Devin van der Merwe was actually invited to give the opening speech to these boys. I know he's doing the same for the under-16s next week. I think it's so important that people like Devin and Inky, with that positiveness, are getting out and talking to the youngsters in the system and saying, right, this is how we see hockey in this game. Buy into a broader vision of the game, what it can do for you, how it can help you, in various other ways. Is it a game you're going to get rich of and, have a long career and retire at 33 and never have to work again? No. It's not going to do that. But it's going to give you so
maybe
many
it
other...
will.
Yeah. Well, it won't. I mean, hockey around the world is not...
There we go.
And it's not about... But it's going to give you so many other opportunities, educational opportunities and various others. So, look, I think it's been a great couple of weeks for us. And the national side, I think we're going to talk to them, have Devin and Inky in studio soon and just talk to them a bit more. But right now it's time for a bit of a break, and we'll come back and talk about the SASOK Nationals that are busy on in Pietermaritzburg right now. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back to Hockey on 216. As I said at the beginning of the show, we are busy on a Tuesday sort of afternoon, evening, shooting for this next week. The SASOK Nationals are on in Pietermaritzburg and Hilton at the moment. On screen, we have the Boland boys versus A-side versus the Southern Gauteng B-side playing. It's 1-0 to Boland in what's a really important fixture for them because they had a loss that they probably weren't expecting, and we'll no doubt chat a bit more about that. So if we do get a bit excited during this segment, it's because we are watching a live match, and Bridget and I have already been castigated today in a meeting because we were so busy watching over the shoulder of the people we were having a meeting with. I think we were watching, was it the EP girls team? Bridget's got a few favourites in that team that she
100%.
that she calls out. So We were watching them in their match earlier today. So yeah, we were just chatting earlier. Just so fortunate, aren't we, to have a tournament structure like we do in this country, and SASOK do such a wonderful job of putting on these events.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of the players and coaches and everyone involved, and ourselves as well, parents, would have been looking forward to this one. This is really, even though there's hockey after this is really what we build up to. We want to see who the best in the country are going toe-to-toe. We don't often get the opportunity for a Saks or a Jeppe and a Paul Roos and a Jeppe to go toe-to-toe. So this is really a good opportunity to see the Kapandas versus the Cries of the world. And
absolutely.
So really excited to see how this one goes.
And I think historically, SASOK Nationals has been going for many years. I remember playing in it as a schoolgirl, but it's been around.
It existed when I was around.
Yes,
That's old.
that's been so many years. But it's one of those that is the pinnacle of your hockey school career. Getting selected for that is a big deal. Mm-hmm. They make the announcement of the national school sides at the end of the tournament. It's a really, really high-end tournament that's run at a very good level, I think.
Absolutely.
It's a
and I
testament.
guess more importantly this week it's being run at the home of hockey in KZN in Pietermaritzburg, on the Papes Astro, the original AstroTurf in South Africa, now with lights at Maritzburg College. In case I need to remind you, the school that has provided the most national players in history. But Manny, maybe before I get a bit carried away with that,
stop
some of the
scrolling
results
quickly.
so long. What have we seen? It started yesterday morning.
Yeah.
So let's maybe just run through the results, and there are lots that we expected, but there've been a couple that we didn't see coming.
Yeah, indeed. So starting yesterday, so we've had 2 days of action, and some of the results have gone the way we thought they might have, but there have been some really interesting results, and Northern Gauteng have been absolutely fantastic as we've gone. But starting off proceedings, Eastern Province going down to Southern Gauteng. So Carl Reddy will be really happy about that result. He touted Eastern Province to actually be one of the better sides at the tournament this year.
And I'm probably
sure they'll bounce
back. A result that we probably expected, though.
One that
I
we
would think
expected,
so.
but they had a really good under-16 year last year, and Grey High are always they always come to the party.
Yeah,
there,
St Andrews, Pearson, they've had a good season, so you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
But
So Southern Gauteng doing really well. They're managing to get 1-0 over them. Inland's managing to get a 2-0 win over Coastal's B. So I think
As
we would
expected.
have probably
No
expected
surprises
that
there.
one. Western Province.
Can I interrupt on that one? It's funny, I spoke to Grant van Meyer, his son Gregor was playing in the Inland A side, and he said the team was so nervous because they actually didn't know what to expect, because the Coastal B side is made up of a lot of players from other places that they haven't played yet.
Not in those sort of teen
Not
boys
exactly.
schools.
So he said it was really interesting and
fear of the unknown.
Yeah, the fear of the
almost.
unknown almost. So a nice result for them.
Yeah, indeed. And Western Province managing to beat Boland B 3-0, I think more or less expected.
Quite a special little goal there from Lita Cry. I saw just showing again, quietish game, but he pulled off a little piece of skill that just shows you what a special player he is.
Yeah, it has blown up on Instagram. I've seen it.
Yeah, he really is a game changer. And that's the thing about players like him. Even when nothing is really happening, they can make things happen. And I think that's where the X factor comes in with like a Lita Crow or a Reece Tienis kind of situation.
Absolutely.
But Southern Free State A managing to get one over Southern Gauteng B,
Which is
1-0 there.
also a good result. I mean, I know
They've
Gray.
actually had a couple of good results, the Free State side.
Yes, they have.
As we'll see in the tournament.
Yeah.
But yeah, a good win for them.
Yeah, heavily loaded with Grey College players,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
as is most sports in the Free State. Boland A managing to beat Western Province B 5-0. I think a good result there. I mean, and that Western Province B side will be good. We mustn't take away.
Absolutely.
We mustn't take away from them. So 5-0 is a good result, but I think Paul Roos and Paul Kham have had a fantastic showing, and Paul Filet as well.
Paul Boys
Yeah, they
have
are
added
now.
some value to this team this year as well.
Paul
Which
Boys
is,
as well, who really peaked towards the end of the season, it must be said. They had some good
just
results.
got better and better. That young Liebenberg playing with it, and just showing again the Boland and the Paul area has a very rich history in hockey, and it's good to see it coming through.
Yeah, and then Northern Gauteng A managing to get 3-2 victory over Coastals. And KZN Coastals are one of the really strong sides with a Westville and a Clifton and a Durban high school as well. So that for Northern Gauteng will be an unbelievable result. And this is the first of two really good results, by the way.
What really makes it special, Manny, is they were 2-0 down, I think, at half time. And from what I heard on the report, unfortunately, it was not a game that I got to see, but Owen McNenaman, the the keeper from Pretoria Boys, who we've spoken about before, actually keeping them in the game. I mean, so it could have been a lot worse at 2-0 down.
Yeah.
Came back to 2-2, and I think they got the third. And if I'm not mistaken, it's that Lucan Brunet, who we've also seen quite a bit.
He's top goal scorer at the moment.
This year. Top goal scorer at the tournament.
Top goal scorer at the moment in the tournament.
Yeah.
5 goals to his name. So
and I mean that's a fantastic result. To look, probably one that we didn't see coming. 3-2, and certainly at 2-0 down at half time, we definitely didn't see it coming. So the coaching staff there in Pretoria, well, not in Pretoria, but from Pretoria, will be very happy with
Stephen
that result.
Paulo, who's an old national player himself, he's a great coach. He's worked really well in that northern space for a long time. So he's going to be chuffed with what his boys are putting out.
Yeah, and he's been doing well with Halsfontein as well. So I don't think this is an isolated situation. He's clearly worked hard with his boys. And a region like Pretoria, which has got such fantastic schools, but doesn't really have that hockey heritage that we talk about from an inlands or a western province, or a coastals or a southern. So doing fantastically, and it's so good to see the growth of the sport. Now we've got sort of 10 provincial sides at any stage that can take the tournament. So I think that's a really good result, not only for Northern Gauteng, but for hockey.
The game.
Yeah.
For hockey in general. And then inlands drawing 0-0 to Eastern Province, which I don't really know what to make of that at the moment. Two good sides who have struggled a little bit in the first game.
If we look at the history, Inland will be very disappointed because they typically are a top 4 team. From what I hear of the game, I think both teams will probably EP nearly scored in the dying minutes. So to nearly steal the game and actually win it. But you're probably right. It's two good sides.
Well, also the Inland A team, majority of them know this pitch, know the game, know the space, know the
they're
venue.
at home. Absolutely.
Exactly.
It'll be
travel.
disappointing for them, not to be getting it over. And I think let's be fair, it's going to probably, and we're probably going to talk somewhere in the show. I'm going to ask you about who's going to be in the semis and who's going to be in the final.
Good thing I don't answer those questions.
A result like that is certainly going to put pressure on Inland to make it. So both teams will probably be disappointed because it's probably going to affect both of their aspirations to be in the semi-final.
Where they're placing,
exactly.
100%.
Makes it really tricky going forward when you don't get the win that you think you might. But I mean, that's the beauty of the SASOK Nationals.
Well, Inland A currently are sitting 3rd in Pool A, behind Southern Gauteng and Western Province A. So they're really going to have to fight if they want to make that semi-final position.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Northern Gauteng managing to get a 3-1 victory over Boelante. Now that for me is a fantastic result because as we've just mentioned, I mean, between Paul Filet, Paul Boys, Paul Gim, Paul Roos, we would have touted Boelante to be one of the strongest sides. And indeed they are. I'm not taking anything away from them. They managed to come second last year.
I guess that's why it makes this a massively important fixture for them because they can't afford to lose
they can't.
there.
Yeah.
And then, even a draw here. So they really need to establish themselves. I mean, I think it's in Q4, they're only 1-0 up against the Southern's B side, which has always got a few talented players and they'll always have a player that could just do something when required. So Boelant under a lot more pressure in this tournament than we expected because we really looked at them as, probably going into the tournament as potential finalists.
Put it this way, in Pool B, you've got Northern Blues with 6 points, Southern Free State A, so, province you wouldn't traditionally think sitting second, and then Boelant A. So they're going to have to really work.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a couple of results that have... so it's really been Northerns that have really,
dominated.
Yeah, well, not dominated. It really created a little bit of consternation for a couple of teams in this tournament that we never saw coming, or that other teams perhaps didn't always account for what they would do.
They'll definitely make it tricky going forward because they will be a team to beat now, and it's important for them to carry on this momentum. The job's not done for them, and I'm sure Stephen Paulo and his troops will.
But when you say not done, it's if you look at the seedings in the pool, they've beaten 2 of the bigger teams in the pool. So from here, and it should be easier for them.
Yeah, they've pretty much. Fortunately, in this, and no discredit to B teams, but they've got
B teams left.
They've got a sort of B teams to play against.
They've done the hard work. I mean, from here they'd have to fall apart really to get into a semi-final.
Yeah.
What else happened there?
So moving on to Southern Gauteng B going down 5-0 to Western Province B, and those are 2 sides that probably should be in and around the same area, but Western Province may be just showing us that they've got the depth in that province. There's some boys from Sax, there's some boys from Bishops who would be the best in their schools, probably playing in that side.
Yeah,
of
especially
that.
when you
Rondebosch,
see how strong Saks are this year, and they're probably dominating that. And I think you make a very good point. Often, if you want to see the strength of hockey in a province, have a look at the B team results.
Absolutely.
Exactly. KZN Coastals drawing 3-3 to Southern Free State. A good result there, I think, for Southern Free State. But as we mentioned, I think Coastal's going through a tough patch. A tough patch at the moment.
I think we've spoken about it on the show that, you looked at KZN Schools hockey this year and it felt like there were a lot of good teams. There weren't any of those real standout individuals that we see in so many of these other teams. And when you get to tournaments like this, it's those absolute standout individuals, the really good ones, that make all the difference because, this is now at the top level. And, I think KZN hockey this year, both inland and coastals, I'd be surprised to see either of them in the semi-finals. They're probably playing in that sort of 5th to 8th spot. So probably a disappointing result, but and a good one for Free State.
Yeah. Good result there for Southern Free State. Southern Gauteng A managing to beat KZN Inland A 2-0. Good result. Just really putting their foot down on that group and maybe just making sure that they are known to be one of the strongest sides.
Probably not unexpected given the dominance of Chepi and St. Stithians, for example.
Absolutely.
So you would have expected that result. But as you say, it was probably the tricky one in the pool for them, the one that they knew they could get past inland.
I think
the rest they would be manageable. The EP one was obviously tougher for them than they expected.
I reckon Carl Reddy will be...
He'll be quite happy to have that one behind him and take the 2-0 and move along.
The result.
Yeah, exactly. Western Province managing to beat Eastern Province A 8-1. Now that for me is a little bit of a shock. I didn't think that they would get that much of an upper hand on them. But once again, Western Province A showing their class. And sometimes those are the games that matter to really assert your dominance on a competition and make sure teams know that you can really score.
I think we always talk about the statement results in the pool games. It's that one.
I think they probably just found the taps opened and it just went.
And they're good enough to do that. No surprises, but
no surprises, but I think Eastern Province will be a little bit disappointed.
I think there's some hurt in that one, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then Boland B managing to get a result over KZN Coastals B, 2-1 there. A tightly contested game there for Boland. And Boland A, currently, as we speak, they're currently at half time on Q4 rather. So I'm a little bit further behind here against Southern Gauteng B. So
and here comes a chance. I mean, if Southern Gauteng B get a draw out of this, both teams just take 1 point, which is not enough for Boland A.
Look, and this is always a tricky game for A sides because you go into these games expected to win, and that expectation on an 18-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 16 can be tricky, and we've seen it at professional level as well. It can be really, really tricky for these A sides.
And I think also you're not playing necessarily a team that has been tactically very briefed or free-flowing, so your game breaks down a lot quicker. And if you've got a running side like Boland A probably do, where they move the ball long distance, they like some, that sort of running hockey style, it's going to be challenging when you're playing a side that breaks you down, and you just don't get in rhythm.
Well, it's been a wonderful start, hasn't it, to what we expect to be a wonderful tournament, and we'll talk more about that, and we'll come back after the break talking about some of the girls' results. We've seen a couple of surprises there as well, and some cracking games. So we'll be back after the break talking SASOK Nationals, the under-18 girls. Welcome back to Hockey on 216, where we're currently in the middle of a SASOK Nationals taking place down in Pietermaritzburg. On the background here, we have the Papes AstroTurf from Maritzburg College, where Boland have just got up against Southern Gauteng B in a result that they definitely would have been wanting. Our colleague Aviule, who normally we see writing all the wonderful articles on SuperSport Schools Plus. I think he must now be, there he is, certainly the most preeminent hockey journalist in the country right now. Is a wonderful resource for this show, isn't he? I mean, so much of what we know about what's going on in the country, people always say, you know so many kids and what's going on. It's really Aviele and the team that just keep us informed of so much of what's going down.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, when we don't have the opportunity to get through every single game and have a watch, they write the most beautiful, eloquent write-ups detailing exactly what's happened in the game, in the tournament, what's to come, what's happened. So a really good platform to go and just see what's happening around the country on the hockey sphere.
So I find it fascinating that, our journos out there for SuperSport Schools Plus. They just know exactly what's going on, but they're so passionate about it as well.
Absolutely. And really, he's
yeah,
one of the,
it's
when
cool.
it comes to this. So for those of you at home, if you haven't been, it's www.ssschoolsplus.co.za. Just the most extraordinary resource of articles, results, interviews with players, interviews with coaches, and not just hockey. There's 8-10 different sports at any one stage on there, from rugby to netball, the water sports in summer, cricket, basketball. So
and with all our nationals going on at the
result.
moment, it's
Absolutely,
incredible.
And our colleagues Mlibo and Andy Cap, you can see it's got a bit cold in Pietermaritzburg by the look of things. But talking about results, let's just in the tournament, maybe we sort of coming to the end of day 2. The girls' tournament has got off to a really good start. Bridget, what have you sort of got there for us from a results perspective?
Well, first off, we didn't necessarily expect this, but Eastern Province A have just been cleaning up. They got a 6-0 result against the Southern Gauteng B, but same concept. You've got a small province pool playing a large depth of
a B
hockey,
team from a big
team,
province.
And that 6-0 result just fired Holderness into the top goal scoring position.
She got a hat-trick in that game?
She got a hat-trick, so she's currently sitting...
I mean, you've been calling her out all year. I think you've got a bit of a... you certainly think she's one for the future. You definitely sort of... maybe not chairman, but you're certainly vice chairman of her fan club. I'm sure her mother and parents are chairman, but she's had a great year. I mean, we've been talking about her. She's played 150-odd games, scored nearly 200 goals at a school level. So
you're going to get... I mean, I'll get to the rest of the results, but we'll call her out again. But just really, really solid
And maybe
play.
To your point, Manny, a statement result. Here we are. We've come to play.
Yeah, well, I was going to build on that. As much as they should be winning that game, that statement says we're here to play and we mean business.
And often you don't get it in your first game out, do you? Early, they would have been early yesterday morning. So,
I think also speaks to that a lot of those players play together at a school level, so they already know each other. The coach, Gio and Hamid also knows the players well. A small province
girls, aren't they?
knows a lot of the DSB girls, so Pearson girls, etc.
But a good result.
Yeah. Next one, Burland taking on Free State A. Also a bit of a statement piece with a 5-0 win there. And, Free State, you're looking at Oranje, so it's again stamping down the authority for Burland A, made up a lot of Paul Gim, Paul Girls, Paul Filet. So again,
don't forget out Renish.
Of course, Duplessis got a hat-trick there.
Duplessis got a hat-trick there as well.
Yes.
Again, probably a team that we're favouring maybe for the tournament. Last year, Southerns beat Northerns in the tournament. There was the final. So Southerns are the champions. So neither of these teams. So that's two big statements from EP and Boland right there.
Definitely. So really good results there. And actually, speaking about Southerns A, they lost to Northern Gauteng B yesterday. Oh no, apologies. They won. They got a 1-0 win against Northern Gauteng B. So that results, again, you probably wanted more from Southern Gauteng A. I think they wanted to score more. They've got goal scorers. So they're finding their click as well, but 3 points.
And I think that's the difference between the first two results and the third one, where they had an opportunity to make a statement and take nothing away from Northern Gauteng. I mean, that's a region with a lot of good girls hockey, but not quite making the statement. First game out against a B side.
Absolutely. So we'll see more of Southerns, no doubt. KZN Inland A against Western Province A. Western Province A getting a 3-0 win there. I would think that's
probably as
expected. Fair result. KZN Inland, nice
being at
side.
home would have preferred to do well. They've got a nice side, and I think they've had a really good result today that I saw earlier.
Yes.
So,
but yet you've got a lot of girls playing out of the Western Province side that are goal scorers. They're driven. They play together a lot.
No,
so same thing. Good result there.
Some really good players in that Western Province team.
And then you have Border playing at Northern Gauteng A. They lost 3-1 to Northern Gauteng A. Border, tricky, a widespread province, but Gauteng A, Northern Gauteng A, they've done really well. You think of the schools there, Menlo, Waterkloof,
Garsfontein, all played Uppies girls, all played a lot of good hockey this year and make up that. So probably a result we would have
100%.
we would have seen coming.
KZN Coastals getting a 4-0 win against Western Province B.
Good start, solid.
Expected.
Pretty much like the first two. Take on the B side, take the result. But they played some good hockey, those schools from Durban this year. Perhaps sometimes, we've probably been a bit disappointed with some of the results from your alma mater, St. Mary's and Kloof.
Well, we wait to see.
They've had sort of up and down tournaments, but across those Durban schools, it's been really good hockey this year. And they've got some good players.
Exactly, you're pulling from a big pool, so
Durban Girls
expected.
College, they've got a few really good ones.
And then probably the result that really took the cap was Eastern Province A beating Boland A 2-1.
Yeah.
Now this game for me was phenomenal because Boland went up first, and my girl Holderness came to the power, and she scored 2 goals for her side, and that they're just cementing their position. They're top of the pops now. They've got the results they want, etc. So
sorry, I said to people we're doing
we're
a
going to
bit of
get
a watch along, but
yes.
one of the things that just amazes me, we talk about South African schools hockey. Umpire to our left, I guess, facing us, Jono van Husselen, for those people who don't know, has just come back from umpiring at Pro League in London. So here these kids are playing, world-class, Pro League umpires. Our kids are lucky in this country, aren't they?
Van Venter was also
She was umpiring sooner. So,
yes, so she was also at Pro League.
Really just wonderful. Sorry, but this is a bit of a watch along on today's
Calvin
show.
told us not to get distracted, and as it turns out.
No, it will happen. I mean, you've got Coastal A playing Western Province B, it's going to be a cracker evening game. So
is that Coastal or
Inland? KZN Inland A. But they...
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
geez,
know quite
we're
what
questioning ourselves now.
It looks like Coastals by the colour of the
Yeah,
kit.
it does. It does.
Anyhow.
Okay. Anyway, we've been distracted. So we've got EP now, top of the pops, against a Boland A side.
And the Boland team were probably one of our favourites going in.
Yeah, so I don't know if I expected that result. I'm going to be honest, even though I think EPA, they've got some really good side. They've got DSG coming from there and a lot of players from DSG. But DSG also don't play a lot of schools outside of the province. I don't think they had played too many games outside of the province. So to get that kind of result, I think is absolutely massive. And I think that's going to set the tone for the rest of their tournament.
We also forget that, Collegiate are quite a few players in that team from Collegiate. And Collegiate had that very big win in the Pelham tournament?
Yes,
or the all-girls tournament, which was all-girls, I think, which took us by surprise. So DSG have had a very good year. So, clearly a really good side out of Makanda. Another good side. Pearson have had a decent side this year. And, some of those... Collegiate girls, I know there were, Taryn Plettenberg has really impressed this year at times for me, so it's been really interesting to see what she can deliver.
I mean, she got a great goal against the Southern Gauteng B side. So
absolutely. Interesting, Bridget and Manny, this EP girls team that have really surprised us so far, not surprised us, have done really well. And well, they have surprised. Certainly I think this Boland A result was not one that we saw coming, because I think Boland A girls were probably our favourites for the tournament. Given what we've seen this year. They came 9th this tournament last year. So, that's a big step forward. The under-16 girls won the tournament at the SASOK Nationals last year. So fantastic for EP hockey. And you spoke earlier just about what's happened with the Northerns boys, just adding another team into that sort of semi-final, final mix. It's just great to see the EP girls putting such a big statement forward.
Yeah, 100%. And that's exactly what we need. We need to make sure that we've got as many teams as possible who can rock up on the year and really cause, not an upset, but that it's not going to be the same 4 teams over and over again.
No, it's exciting.
Absolutely.
It's very exciting for that.
Great result and a bit of an uphill task for the Boland ladies from here. They're going to need to get themselves to the semi, which they should do in their pool.
They're sitting second in the pool, so they've got 6 points to EP's 9 points, but they do have a chasing Free State side on 4 points. So, there's lots going on.
There's been a few Boland results over those Free State girls at a schools level that the Free State would like to turn over. So I think that's going to be one to watch later in the week.
Definitely. So finishing off yesterday, though, we finished with a draw with Southern Gauteng A versus Southern Free State A. So, both teams needing a result off that one. They both go away with 1 point. So, that one there means playing today, there was a lot to play for those teams just teetering on the, third place position in their pools.
Absolutely.
So, and we kicked off today with Western Province A with a big 7-0 win over Border.
Statement.
Another
Statement
statement.
piece, exactly. Western Province B versus Northern Gauteng A. Northern Gauteng A getting that 2-1 result. Expected in many ways, but great that Western Province B do clinch one goal, which it's good to see that.
Northerns will be happy, won't they?
Yeah.
With that result. And as we see that, I mean, it can get a bit tricky. We often say the
Yes.
A's. There's the KZN Coastal boys are 1-0 down against Western Province.
They're the EP
Some
boys.
guys, EP boys are enjoying that. So, yeah, not always
boys.
so easy taking on those B sides, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And one result from today that I think stands out quite heavily is KZN Coastal A versus KZN Inland A. Inland A getting a 1-0 win over KZN Coastal A, which is, you got the St. Anne's, St. Mary's, the St. John's, Our Lady of Fatima. You got that fight of the coastals versus the inland.
So, well, Mornay Oudendal will be happy with that. I
Yes.
think he's coaching that. That's a big win. I mean, I think
Yeah.
if we're honest, we probably didn't see that because really the big results out of KZN, yes, and Anne's have had a good year, but really it's been about St.
Coastals.
Mary's and Kloof. It's
Yeah.
it's
it
been
has.
about those Durban schools
It has.
this year.
No,
Lady of
so-
Fatima, Durban Girls College. So really good result for inland hockey and a resurgence for girls hockey in inland, which is
Yeah,
great.
Coastals are going to have to work hard tomorrow, so one to watch out for. Moving on, Southern Gauteng B versus Burland. Burland getting back a 3-0 win there, so they get that 3 points from today, which they needed. Probably coming off the loss yesterday evening against EP, so they'll be chuffed with that result. Then one that really stood out, and it was a cracker game, is EPA versus Southern Gauteng A. EP winning 3-2. And it went down to the wire.
Let me guess, Holderness amongst the goals again?
Well, yes, she was. And just a really good game. I think it was a standout game in the girls section. It is two good sides.
Probably secures EP a semi-final spot.
It does.
Puts it. Southern's have got some work to do for the rest
Yeah.
of the week, but that's at EP through to the semis.
Yeah, they're sitting on 9 points. That they're hard to chase down now. So it would be something really amiss if they lose. They have to
Don't make
lose
it
all
from
their
here.
games.
And they played some of the big teams. I mean, they've played the big teams in the pool.
They played. So they hopefully will coax through to a semi-final quite comfortably from here. But yeah, let's sit and wait. And today finished off with Southern Free State A versus Northern Gauteng B. Free State A getting a 5-0 win there. So they'll be chuffed at that result. I saw Bianca Rees-Gibbs with an interview. She spoke fondly about her team just coming together. It clicked. It worked well. So they were all smiles going into tomorrow.
So, which going into the semis, looks like EP are there.
Yeah.
Looks like Western Province are there.
Yes, that's sort
Bullant
of-
with a bit to do, although it looks
Yeah.
like they've probably done enough right now.
Yeah, if Free State carry on the way that they are, there's going to be a big fight with Free State Burland. So that's one to watch.
So it's
And
Free State
then-
Bullant for the second spot in that pool, and the other
And
pool
then
it'll
you're
be
looking at Northern Gauteng A, Coastals, kind of again with
that loss-
Inland.
That coastal loss must have
I
cost
know,
them a
it's-
bit. But I
it's an
suppose
in-
it's just the pool, the way that the pools come.
the
and
pool, it's kind of going in goals, 4 goals against at this stage in Pool B. So Pool B sees Coastal A 3 points, Western Province A 3 points, Northern Gauteng 3 points, KZN Inland 3 points. However, KZN Inland are -2 in goal difference. Coastals are 3, Western Province
it's
3, 2.
It's going to be a really interesting week, and I guess next Tuesday when we get together again, we'll know how it all ended up. Some fantastic hockey being played in Pietermaritzburg and Hilton
Yes.
this weekend, and really exciting stuff. We'll come back after the break and just talk a bit more about our plans for the finals this weekend from a SuperSport Schools perspective. Hyundai's there with us, so making sure that we can bring the very best of hockey to your screens, both on Channel 216, on the SABC Plus app, as well as obviously everything,
Yeah.
the SuperSport Schools app. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Hockey on 216, proudly driven by Hyundai. Guys, it's been a fascinating show talking about nationals. I think next week, once sort of all the results are in, the finals have been played, really exciting. I'm going to give you each a quick. Who's going to win the boys, Manny? Under 18 national champions of South Africa.
I love playing devil's advocate, but I'm going to have to go with Western Province here. I just think a little bit too strong, A lot of those players have played together
Yep.
for a vast majority of the season. They would already click. And the most important thing, I think they've got X factor. That's what's going to be really important for them when the going gets tough.
And if anyone can challenge them,
If anyone can challenge them, I wanted to initially say Boerland, but
Southern Gauteng.
I'm going to say Southern Gauteng. I'm going to say Southern Gauteng.
I think it's a Southerns. Last year's
Yeah.
final was against Boerland.
Western Province, Boerland, yeah.
I think just having a look at this, from what we saw earlier,
Yeah.
Boerland have got a lot to do if they're going to be there in the finals, but
Yeah.
we'll see. Bridget, the girls, I think it's a little bit more open than perhaps many would have
Yeah.
expected.
Yeah, listen, I think if EP carry on the way that they are, I think they'll definitely be in the final. I think they'll 100% make a semi-final. They just need to continue that goal-scoring mindset that they've got. So I'm going to put my money on EP being in the final.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say they're probably going to play... It's tough now. I think they're going to play Western Province.
Agreed.
I think Boerland, I'd be interested to see how they come out. I'm hoping they continue going, but I do wonder, like, how they're going to carry on. I think they might struggle in a semi-final.
I think I disagree with both of you. I know you
Fair.
guys are going
No
Western
surprise,
Province, and
no
given with
surprise.
what's happened, I think we haven't seen the best of Boerland. They certainly haven't had those statement results. I think
Yeah.
tomorrow morning might, I think by the end of Wednesday, maybe I'm going to be off. I just think there's too much quality in that Boerland side, not for them to be in the finals. And I think there's a lot of really top players that are going to come through when they need it. But they do need to.
Yeah.
They need to get a move along. They're certainly under a bit of pressure right now, and so I'm looking for an EP Boerland final. And I think Boerland, in that instance, if they get themselves to the final, I think the momentum will then be on their side.
Yeah.
But
And
EP
it's-
certainly are the they right now they're the team to beat.
Yeah, they are.
And I think importantly, it's a matter of getting there, and that's the beauty of tournament hockey, because Boerland are going to have to play one of those two sides, maybe, somewhere along the line. And if they don't click by the time they meet an Eastern Province, or they don't click by the time they meet a Western Province, then they've got
They
problems.
won't
They
play
won't
in
get
the-
EP because
yeah, they
they've had
won't
EP
play
in
in
the
a
pool.
semi.
So
Of course.
they sort of protected from
Yeah,
the
so
EP
that's-
factor, which is the
that's
problem
why I
for Southern
say-
Free State or some
I
of those
think it's
other
going to
teams.
be a Western Province Boerland semi-final, and that's where
It's going to get interesting.
They're going to have to
Yeah.
get it right.
Yeah.
It's really going to get interesting. And Bridget, obviously from a hockey perspective, we'll have all those finals. Friday Night Lights will be from the Papes Astro in Pietermaritzburg, from the SASOK Nationals, and Saturday we have the finals, all to look forward to on Channel 216, both on Friday night and Saturday, just on Channel 216, on the SuperSport Schools app, and obviously on the SABC Plus app. So really lots to look forward to.
It's a very busy time of year for SuperSport schools. I mean, we're across the board at all the nationals, so it's very exciting. So we jump around a bit.
But
so
this week we're showing a lot of hockey, which is
a lot of
which is
hockey.
really
But
great.
if you're not finding it on 216 at any stage, regardless, it will repeat. But it
find it
is
on the app.
always on the app.
Always
so
live on the app. So
you can't
for those
miss
of you who
any
don't have the app,
action. Yeah.
download the app.
yeah.
Next week, it doesn't stop, does
No.
it? It's school holidays. It's July. It's that sort of it's all about the
national
provincial
weeks.
tournaments and national weeks from around the country. Next week we've got the Under 14 National Week, which is here.
Yes,
up
between
in,
Cairns, St John's,
up in Johannesburg.
St Stithians, it's all over up here. So under
and
14s.
I'm right. Hockey on 216. We're going to be shooting live from Cairns.
Yes, correct.
Which
on
we're looking
Tuesday,
forward to.
we're gonna
Great to be on the Cairns Astro and shooting outside the studio. It's also the Under 16 tournament. That'll be at Hilton College and at St Anne's as well, or just at Hilton.
Same again. So the main Astro will be at Hilton on their main pitch, and then jumping around between Hilton B, St Anne's, and their second pitch at St Anne's. Very fortunate.
We're back in
those two
Hilton,
schools.
and that'll all be on the app. Not as much Channel 216 next week because we do move into some big rugby weeks next week. As well. So
well,
a little bit of the
we
age
won't.
group.
Everything will be on the app.
Absolutely.
For nationals, but we're going to play a lot out into the evening. So you'll get the first game in the morning and then the evening games for all the under 16. So it does mean that you're going
On
to
Channel 216.
on Channel 216. So we do miss sort of those midday games because there is Craven Week, Academy Week, but you just go find it on the app. So that's the cool part about SuperSport.
Absolutely,
Schools.
and obviously not only live, you can go to the app at any stage, and
100%.
any of these games and results we've spoken about, you can source them on the app and go back and watch it at any stage. And obviously there's the functionality there to clip anything that you're looking for from a sort of moments, goals, whatever it might be, that you can clip, edit, and share across your social digital media platforms, which people are welcome to do.
I've already had a whole lot of people sending me clips of goals and names and so forth, and I don't know whether that's trying to hound me as a selector or on Hockey on 216, but that's what you can do with it, which is so
Absolutely.
cool. Yeah.
We're looking forward to that. So, yeah, it's got another week to go. And I mean, we sort of have, I don't think we've spoken about it on the show, but the Under-13 Nationals are on this week as well. And that's also live on the app. There's been some really good action from that. I'm not sure if either of you are on top of anything that's going on there. But
I think the results, they played semi-finals today. And if I'm not mistaken, Western Province are playing in the final against Southern Gauteng. I stand corrected.
The boys or girls?
I'm going to double check myself just to make sure. So this looks like this semi-final, just for pure interest sake, the semi-final this evening finished with the girls under 13. Southern Free State versus KZN Coastal went to a 0-0, so they went to shootouts. And KZN Coastals won that, so they'll be in the finals tomorrow.
So
lots going
another
on.
great tournament, and maybe as a show, we'll commit to really doing a bit of a deep dive into the Under-13 tournament on next week's show, and really having a look at some of that young, wonderful talent that's coming through our system. So, a lot to do over the next week or two for you and the production and the commentary teams and various people. Bridget, I know you're going to be down in Maritzburg later in the week for the finals, so give everyone my best. Maybe just in closing, we've got a couple of minutes left in the show. We saw some teams announced this week for the Super 12, Top 12, what do they call it? They'll run your host later in the year.
Top 12.
Top 12. Those teams are announced. They're out. I don't know if you've got them there.
I do. I can call it out. You got Pool A is, so Top 12 traditionally goes on, we don't like to refer to it, but sort of a ranking-based environment. So it kind of is your top 12 tiered teams, and that's how they select who gets to play at this tournament. So in this case, you got Pool A is Greenwich, Unisi, Oranje, Bloemhof, Waterkloof, and St. Mary's Kloof. So that makes up Pool A. Pool B is DSG, Paul Gym, Collegiate, Menlo Park, Our Lady of Fatima, and St. Anne's. So, some teams I think should be there.
Look, as you say, is it the best 12 teams in the country?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Is it 12 of the best 20 in the country? Absolutely it is. Another great tournament that's coming up in August. So the hockey season certainly not coming to an end with these SASOK Nationals. And I see KZN struggling to try and get that. And Jonathan has decided that that is for the defenders. So another wonderful week of hockey to look forward to. By Saturday, we'll know who the winners of both boys and girls SASOK Under-18 Nationals are. We'll know who the South African schools teams are, which is something that's really been interesting for us this year and really looking forward to. So everything to look forward to, and obviously we'll discuss that in more depth next week. For those of you who are out there, there's something a little bit for the whole family. Edgar's is running an exclusive get 3 for 2 deal on all sale items, just for their Thank You Rewards members from the 2nd to the 5th of July. So that's starting from tomorrow. Mix and mass across ladies, men's and kids wear. And the cheapest item is yours for free. It's in-store only. So head to Edgar's and grab the deal while stocks last. Not a thank you member, that's no stress. Then you can sign up. It's free and it's quick. And you can do it at the till. T's and C's apply. So a wonderful offer there for our Hockey on 216 members or viewers with Edgar's if you get down into a store in the next couple of days. We'll be back next week with another edition of Hockey on 216, proudly brought to you by Hyundai. Good night.